A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries, participants, and all the paper presenters present here. We are moving on to the plenary session for this afternoon. We request all of you to kindly take your seats as we welcome the chairpersons and the keynote speakers onto the dais. The chairmen for today's session are Dr. Ganga Prasad Prasen, Dr. B.R. Ramesh, and Dr. Amit Sana. We request all of you to please take your seat on the dais. Sorry, my mistake. We request Dr. Ashish Sana to kindly take your seat on the dais. We also request the keynote speakers for this afternoon, Professor Mahendra Gujrati and Professor Achintya Ray, to kindly come up onto the stage. I would take this opportunity to introduce our chairman and the keynote speakers before we move on to the plenary session. Dr. Ganga Prasad Prasen is working as the Vice Chancellor, Tripura University. Previously, he was working as Dean, School of Social Science, and Professor of Commerce in Manipur Central University, Imphal. He has 31 years of teaching and research experience at the postgraduate level and 14 years as professor at the Manipur University, Imphal. His area of specialization includes entrepreneurship development, human resource management, marketing, and tourism management. Sir is also the Executive Council member of the Rajiv Gandhi Central University, Itanagar, Arunachal Pradesh, and Sikkim University, and also the court member of the same university. Professor Prasen is a visitor's nominee for appointment of the statutory post and faculty member in the Central University of Gujarat. Thank you for being with us this afternoon, sir. We are indeed grateful for your kind presence. We would request Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Basu to kindly felicitate sir with a small token of our gratitude and appreciation. Thank you so much, sir. Our next chairperson for this afternoon session is Professor B. Ramesh. Sir has a rich experience in the field of academia, serving for almost 37 years. A significant contribution is Sir's initiative of launching the MBA Financial Service course as a successful self-financing program in January 2000, which today has emerged as a full-fledged discipline in the Goa Business School, which was approved and sanctioned recently, positioned by Goa government in the assessment year 2021. Thank you for being with us this afternoon, sir. Moving on to our third chairperson for this afternoon is Professor Ashish Kumar Sana. Sir is working as a professor at the Department of Commerce, University of Calcutta. He is currently the coordinator of MBA, Financial Management, University of Calcutta, Joint Secretary, Indian Accounting Association, Kolkata branch, Executive Committee member, Indian Accounting Association. His research interests in the area of accounting and financial reporting, financial markets, microfinance, entrepreneurship, amongst the rest. Dr. Sana has several publications in reputed national and international journals and has presented as a resource person in various international reputed institutions. Thank you for your presence, sir. Moving on to the keynote speakers for this afternoon session is Professor Mahendra Gujrati. Sir has earned his PhD in Business Management from the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, after receiving his bachelor's and master's in commerce from the University of Pune. His research is focused primarily on accounting association, earnings management, contemporary financial accounting reporting issues, and capital market perception of alternate accounting numbers. Sir currently serves on the Governing Council of the National Section and is the chair of the Nominations Committee of the American Accounting Association. We are indeed honored by your presence, sir. Thank you for your time and being a part of this afternoon session. Moving on to the next keynote speaker is Professor Achintya Ray. Sir is a professor of financial economics in the Tennessee State University. Dr. Ray earned his MA and PhD degrees in economics from the Vanderbilt University. He has completed his postdoctoral bridge program from the University of Florida, where he specialized in accounting and finance. Dr. Ray has provided his services as a peer reviewer to many leading international journals, including the American Journal of Preventive Medicine, American Journal of Public Health, amongst the rest of the reputed journals. Dr. Ray has also served as an expert examiner of doctoral dissertations of many reputed international universities. Thank you for your presence, sir. We are indeed grateful by your presence this afternoon. So without any further ado, we request the chairpersons and the keynote speakers to kindly take over the dais. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon. Namaskar. Respected President of Indian Accounting Association, respected Secretary of Indian Accounting Association, Conference Secretary, all the distinguished speakers on the dais, Professor Achintya Ray from America, Professor Mahendra Gujarati, also from America, my friend Professor B. Ramesh, former President of Indian Accounting Association, Professor Ashish Anna from the Department of Commerce, University of Kolkata, distinguished professors, paper presenters, past President of Indian Accounting Association, invitees, ladies and gentlemen. At the very outset, I convey my greetings to all of you who are present here, and also I'd like to thank the organizing committee of 46th Conference of Indian Accounting Association for giving me this opportunity to chair this very, very important session. Now, time allotted to this session is 1 hour only. We have two speakers, both are from America, and we have also one, panelist, Professor B. Ramesh. So, as per time schedule, I would like to give 20 minutes each to two keynote speakers. Then I will hand over microphone to B. Ramesh for his comment. And I will also invite questions, if any, from the audience who are present here. And at the last, I will give my few observations and will conclude the session. Therefore, without wasting further time, I would like to request Professor Achintya Ray from America to present his address. And time allotted is 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Prasain, and good afternoon to all of you. And thank you to the Indian Accounting Association for offering this tremendous honor of giving the keynote address during the plenary session. I know that it is a tightly scheduled program, so I will probably start off with the 5 key central messages that you should all take home. But the general theme I'm going to speak about is the economic and financial implication of global debt crisis. And you must be wondering where we are having a debt crisis yet. And I will challenge you to think about that in a little bit constructive manner after having consulted some of the important data sources. And I'll be reflecting a structure in which the accounting and auditing professionals can start thinking about it. And I'm not an accountant. I'll be putting that disclaimer after all. I'm a postdoctoral in finance and accounting, but basically I'm an economist by training. So I'll be looking at it from an economic lens and then connecting with some of the structural issues like loan pricing and all that. So here are the 5 central messages that I hope you will take home just in case we run out of time. What I'm going to claim is that the global debt level is reaching an unsustainable level. It is basically threatening the entire financial system of the world. That's my first claim, and I hope to establish that. The second thing is that rising global debt levels is basically constraining the ability of the governments to effectively undertake any counter-cyclical fiscal stability measures, which is a very, very troublesome feature, especially when a bad outcome happens. The third thing that is particularly interesting, since we are having an accounting conference, and accounting and auditing, I'm kind of using them interchangeably, is that when there is pervasive amount of global debt, it is leading to some systemic global asset mispricing and crowding out of the private investment, and that has significant implications for the global financial system. And to top it all, the systemic risk that is imposed by the dislocations in the various financial entities around the world, that can lead to severe geopolitical disruptions. And then, of course, the usual economic thing about lower investment in growth-inducing investments and serious threat of stagflation. So when we are talking about debt, essentially what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide them into two basic categories, which is the tradable or the financial debt and the non-tradable or the non-financial debt. Within the tradable, you have a couple of things. You have the public debt and you have the private debt, and public debt being the sovereign bonds and treasury bills and SDRs and whatnot. And in private debt, we have the corporate bonds and then household and consumer debts like mortgage, consumer durables, etc., etc. And then the non-tradable or non-financial, we'll be talking about the contingent liabilities, areas of balance sheet items, and probably much more, swaps and derivatives, and those things will be included. So where are we standing now? So here is the kind of 30,000 feet view of where the global economy is right now. We are around, so the left scale is about the global debt, and the right scale is, it is a percentage of the GDP, of the weighted average. So we are right now at a $315 trillion of debt. Just to give you a contrasting point, the GDP of India is about $4 to $5 trillion. But the global debt is about $315 trillion, and as a percentage, weighted average of the GDP, we are at around 333%. So if you add the GDP of each and every country, each and every economy in the world, the global debt is more than 3 times of that. Just think about the staggering amount of debt that we have. So here is a very simple, so global GDP is about $105 trillion. Here are the usual suspects. USA, China, and India is to the kind of southwest of China, a ratio of 3.7 trillion to about 19.4 trillion. And then on the left panel, you have the global distribution of GDP. On the right panel, you have the percentage of the world debt that is held by different countries, and there is not even a close comparison. The United States has the highest, and followed by some of the other players like Japan, China, Italy is pretty big, Germany, UK, France, Canada, and then a whole bunch of other small debt countries. So that's kind of like an apples to apples comparison. Left panel, the GDP, and the right panel, you have the ownership of the debt. So going forward, remember I told you that there is about $315 trillion of debt. The question is, what is included in that debt? That's in the right panel. So for an example, about $56.5 trillion is in financial sector, government is about 63 trillion. So that's the right panel. You see there, households about 40 trillion, and so on and so forth. And on the left panel, what you see is the debt as a percentage of GDP for different countries. Japan is at 255% all the way to the top. The bottom will be Israel and Slovakia. That will be 58 and 57% respectively. So pretty staggering amount, but very unequal distribution, and that's a point that's worth noting because these countries are facing different risk profiles and therefore different impact when it comes to allocation of the risk pricing. I'll be talking about it a little bit. So the debt will be good. Debt itself is not a good or bad thing. It also depends on whether or not we are able to repay it. And that's true for a household, it's true for a government. And this actually coming from the World Bank debt statistics and IMF. So what we are looking at is the growth rate of external debt stocks with the GNI, gross national product. So the darker green shade actually telling you how fast the external debt is rising in the last 10 years, 2012 to 2022, and how is the GNI is rising, the gross national income. And as you can see, the darker shade greens always is taller than the lighter shade green. So basically the debt is rising faster than the gross national income. So people are borrowing more than their incomes are rising. You'd think that's a problem. Of course it is a problem. That's why we have 3 times the global GDP is in debt. We are approaching crisis point, that's for sure. So this one is looking at the same thing. So this is basically one categorization of the countries, East Asia, Pacific, Europe and Central Asia, so on and so forth, Latin American, Caribbeans. And this is another way, this is by the lending group. What is happening to the countries that are lending? And as you can see that the same pattern kind of keeps on holding. The darker shade of green, which is the external debt stock rising at a faster rate compared to the gross national income. Again, we are seeing there is kind of like a stochastic dominance going on in the sense that debt is rising faster than the income, which is really, really bad. So this one is a stunning picture which is presenting that how we are spending money. So basically the total debt service is rising very fast, and it has gone from somewhere between $20 to $30 billion somewhere around 2012 to all the way to $80 billion around 2022. It's a 4-fold increase just in a short span of 1 decade. It just went by like a blink of an eye, and you can see how fast the debt servicing is going up. And this is coming from the IDA, International Development Association data. So again, So how is it changing the debt to GDP ratio over time? This is a very interesting picture. So if you can really focus on the chart itself, you will see 2 different shades. So for example, initially, between 2000 and 2024, so around 2000 to 2024, the earlier phase of about 135.6% in the first half, now it is about 251%. So for each and every country, what you see that the debt is not only increasing, it is increasing at an increasing rate. So kind of not only the absolute amount is changing, the rate of change is also accelerating because, countries are taking debt and it is taking a lot of money to repay that debt. So what are they going to do? They are going to take more debt to pay debt, kind of. So this one, what is done here, this is actually a non-parametric estimation of the forecasted growth densities across different percentiles. So this is doing the kernel density estimation, kind of then smoothing it to find the kind of like a bell-shaped, using the kernel density, Epanechnikov kernel and all that. So the severe downside is in that black dotted line to the extreme left, and the right one is kind of like the 5th percentile and the highest percentile almost overlapping with one another. So these are the projected growth rate and how the growth rate is distributed all over the world. As you can see that the mean equal to median, it's a symmetric distribution, kind of symmetricized. So the mean median is around 2 to 3%. That's not where the debt is. So the debt is rising much faster. But, the growth rate is very small, 2 to 3%. Now there are some countries which are growing much faster. I think India is about to grow at a 6.5 to 7%, but then there are a whole bunch of other countries that are growing very slowly. So this one is saying that although, there is a growth taking place, but it may not be enough to cover for the really rapid rise in the debt amount in the world. So what does it mean? If you put 2 and 2 together, they almost always end up becoming 4, and that is what we are seeing here. So this is kind of again the distribution over a long time, how the average growth risk forecasts are. So if you go through the horizontal axis, we are starting around 2008 all the way to 2023. And yes, the growth is rising sometimes, falling sometimes, rising sometimes, falling sometimes. But you focus on around 2020, it came down, it briefly went up, but now we are in the severe downside scenario. We are dropping to some historical low levels, and that could have serious problem with the world economy. We are nowhere near the dark green or the light green or the blue, even the light red. We are in deep, deep red, severe downside scenario. Why? Because the governments are spending a boatload of money just to service their debt. So this is actually telling you how much, as a percentage of the tax revenues, the government are spending just to service their debt. United States is spending about 1 out of every $10 it collects. Actually more than that. And it has gone up since 8.7%. So you see that the blue bars, which is representing about 24 to 26 average year, and the red bar is about 21, 23. So in a short period of 3 to 4 years, the burden of debt servicing is increasing. The blue bars are slightly taller. And if it is negative, so that means the government is not, actually it's the other way around. Their debt burden is going down. So Denmark and Norway would be one. But almost every country, they are spending a staggering amount on debt servicing itself, which is definitely something worrisome. So what is happening when all this fire is kind of picking up? So this is a very stunning chart. So cash to interest expense ratios, that has started falling. Of course, you have 2019, which is the bottom left corner of the chart, all the way going up to 2021, which is the top right, and the COVID 2020 is somewhere in the middle. But guess what happened in 2022? We are actually down below the COVID range. Okay? So past COVID, we had a little bit of jump, and then we are now going down. So basically, the cash buffers are depleting at a much faster rate. The companies and the countries are running out of cash, basically. So the cash buffers are depleting. All right. So there is another part of the debt that we talked about, which is the off-balance sheet items, non-tradable and derivatives and swaps and all these things. So that amount is also going up. This is the unrecorded thing. Sometimes because there is no solid way of capturing all those things. That could be off-balance sheet, there could be third-party debt instruments, something like what happened in 2008, 2009. There was a lot of mortgage-backed securities and the great meltdown and the great recession. That part is also going up. Thank you. So that is also growing up. So basically swaps and, I mean, if you think about kind of like a counterparty deal, when the entities are borrowing in one currency, let's say in dollar, and lending it in another currency, let's say euro, and the debt rates are going up in an asymmetric manner, you could have serious foreign exchange risk, especially for instruments that are denominated in different currencies. So it can have very differential asymmetrical fiscal policy interventions, challenges, except when the exchange rate volatility is concerned. All right, so how the countries are actually grappling with that? Of course, they are trying to inflate their way out of this problem. Global inflation, they're printing money and monetary policy interventions and, creating a lot of inflationary pressure to get rid of a lot of debt. So if you look at 1982 to all the way end of 2022, so you have France, Germany, Japan, United States, and UK. I plotted those, this is the IMF, they are plotting the real interest rates. And if you look, that red line, which is the trend line I got there, it is unmistakably downward sloping. So the real interest rate has been falling for a long time, over 30 years, 40 years actually. Over 40 years it has been falling because of this rising inflation rate also. And plus there was a long period of very close to zero, and in some cases negative interest rate in some other countries. So when all these things are playing out, rising debt level, lowering cash reserve ratio, decreasing real interest rate, you see this, we are looking at a tsunami really taking shape. So this is creating a disproportionate, a disparate country risk map. So the darker the shade, more risky the country is. Like Argentina will be very risky, same as Russia and few other countries like Venezuela. And then lighter the shade, you have lower risk. Of course, US, Canada will be a very low risk region. India is somewhere in between, India and China and some other countries. Pakistan, for an example, is very high risk region. Now the right panel I kind of threw in there because, when debt is rising, the percentage of GDP spent for debt servicing, that is going up. Of course, you need people to raise the productivity and pay the taxes and, kind of drive us down in the right direction, lower debt and higher GDP. But for a long time, the global fertility rate has been going down. So you'll be thinking like, okay, how come the global population is growing? It is still growing because we are slightly above the replacement rate on the very right, about 2.4. The moment we drop below 2.1, the world population will start shrinking. That means the dependency ratios will start growing up and all that bad things are going to happen. The tax base is going to shrink. So let's start wrapping up this picture. What did we actually find? So this burgeoning global debt is crowding out private investment because you have a fixed amount of loanable funds and both the governments and private entities are coming there and fighting it out with each other. Of course, the government is going to win and loanable funds are only in short supply. Therefore, you have a crowding out effect going on. And then when you have this asymmetric distribution of debt components, you have a chance of serious contagion effect that can destabilize the global economy. The fire starts at one place and then there is a cascading effect all through the other economies. And we have seen this in the Mexican peso crisis, we have seen this in the East Asian debt crisis back in late 90s, and we have seen this movie many times over the course of the history. And rising debt levels actually indicate a lack of fiscal discipline, so that means increased future taxation and therefore lower profitability. That has P&L implication. And sovereign debt crisis can lead to serious geopolitical disturbances, and that can have security and military implications. Just remember the case of Sri Lanka next door, what happened because of the debt crisis. And many countries are facing the same kind of situation now. And what happens? High debt can imperil the financial stability, and it can increase the downside risk, and that leads to systemic mispricing of assets, because I may be thinking about a future which is much more rosy when it is not. So that risk may not be completely priced into the system, and that could be a definite challenge. And then we are seeing a kind of like a non-banking financial institutions like hedge funds and other private equity and all that, and they are dealing with the same kind of instruments, the same kind of tradables. So there could be significant overlapping that can further change the financial stability architecture. And of course, there is challenge to the counter-cyclical stabilization policies, like when bad things happen, recession starts, the government can push out more resources. That's the expansionary fiscal policy. Now, if the government is burdened with a whole bunch of debt, how does the government actually carry out an expansionary fiscal policy? So just to give you an example, if I have a whole bunch of debt and something bad happens, like there is a storm that takes out a part of my building and I have to repair it, well, my ability will be seriously limited because now I am under a lot of debt. And then increased debt plus declining fertility that could imply for the global economy going forward a lot of dependence and increasing top-line tax burden, which can have P&L implications and decline in profitability and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I have to say. Let me go back to the first slide altogether to kind of tell you where we were. And these are the central things. Let me just highlight them back once again. Unsustainable debt levels and really limited ability to achieve counter-cyclical fiscal stability policies, crowding out of private investments, and severe geopolitical interventions and like that. And I think the chairman wants me out of here, and I'm ready to get out of here. So thank you for your attention. Great pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. Professor Achintya Roy. Your paper was very, very informative. You have taken a lot of pain in preparing this paper. Now may I request Professor Mahendra Gujrati. He is a professor of accounting, Bentley University, USA. Kindly present your paper maybe within 15 to 20 minutes, sir.
In fact, I do not have any slides, so you can sit back, relax, and let's share some thoughts. Respected dignitaries on the dais and my dear colleagues. It's indeed an honor and privilege for me to address such a large gathering of academic accountants in India. I feel quite at home. I'm a product of Indian accounting education. I received my MCom degree from University of Pune back in 1974, when probably a majority of you were not even born. After that, I joined IIM Ahmedabad, and soon after completing my doctoral studies, I moved to take a faculty position in the US, and I have been there ever since. So in the last 43 years, while I have served in the academic accounting profession in the US, some colleagues call me that I am a fully depreciated asset. When a colleague of mine at Bentley asked me, why does the institution keep me on the books, a fully depreciated asset? I said the answer is very simple. It's high ROI, return on investment. And the high ROI is not because the return, the numerator is high, but the denominator investment is very low. So joke aside, The invitation from Arindam Gupta to deliver this keynote address gave me an opportunity to do some reflection. I don't want to get overly technical or long-winded talk. Instead, I would like to share some few thoughts with you as my fellow academic accounting educators, offer some suggestions, and finally conclude with an announcement. So first and foremost, what is our role as accounting educators? William Butler Yeats once said, "Education is not filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire." As educators, we hold the honor, moreover, a responsibility of lighting those fires in our students. This means providing them with experiential learning, cultivating their critical thinking, problem solving, and empowering our students to lead fulfilling lives. So how can we achieve this? What techniques can we use to improve our performance? Someone might say, just use ChatGPT. How many of you do you use ChatGPT or something similar in your research, teaching, or professional service? Can I just see a show of hands? Okay, many of you do. So if we are going to use ChatGPT or something similar to that, then the question is going to be, what do we do? What do we do as accounting educators? And the answer will depend on really answer to two of the questions. The first question is, asking the right question, which is not what AI can do for me, but how can I be a better educator using the AI? There are many colleagues of mine in the US who strictly prohibit students to use packages like ChatGPT. And I think it's pretty short-sighted, because the employers are not only going to encourage, but almost require their future employees to use it for the sake of productivity enhancement. And their future employees are our present students. So if we have to empower them and make them more employable, make them more value-added employees of the future, I think it is imperative that we train them in leveraging such technologies at ChatGPT or Google Gemini to do better of what they are supposed to do as professionals. So again, the question is, how do we do this? We should start distinguishing between situations where there is one definitive answer and situations where there is no such definitive answer. That is where the difference comes between bookkeeping and accounting. Bookkeeping typically is mechanistic, rule-based, and requires little or no judgment. Quite on the contrary, accounting requires substantial professional judgment. And that's where we can make difference as educators. Many of our graduates might not get jobs because they will be trained in kind of doing the work which machines can do in far less time and far more accuracy. But if we are, as educators, taking the right direction, we will enhance the prospects of many of our graduates getting the jobs that they haven't yet even imagined. Secondly, we must shift our focus from information acquisition or its delivery to fostering insights and teaching students how to learn. Now, this is not just a cliche, this is very important. This is the distinction that requires our defining the tasks with definitive answers and differentiate those from that do not. Unfortunately, I must say that accounting education, not just in India, but probably all over the world, remains mostly focused on, again to use Yeats' terminology, filling the pail. Give the information to the students and ask them questions in the exams which will make them remember and reproduce what we have taught them. Recently, in preparation for the talk for this conference, I reviewed the textbooks from 11th grade to MCOM for one university. And I found that the textbooks are much shorter, but if I looked at their content, it is not much different from what I had seen probably 20 years ago, or even when I went to the college some 50 years ago. Once again, this is not a criticism of Indian accounting education. The picture, unfortunately, is not that very different in many other countries. So what is the problem? The textbooks and curricula often fail to reflect the tectonic shifts that are taking place in business, technology, and therefore accounting practices. And therefore the need for transition from information to insights has become most urgent. Consider this. Assume for a moment that we give students open book exams. What would happen? Something similar that we used to do in the past, not letting students use the calculators. But if these tools are going to be easily and conveniently and affordably available to them, why not leverage them to benefit and to enrich their job content? So, what is again our role as accounting educators? The first and foremost, inspiring our students to learn. And secondly, as the speaker in the first session of the conference said, help them develop professional judgment and moral integrity. These human qualities are beyond AI's reach, at least for now. As a friend of mine, Shrikant Datar at Harvard Business School has studied, the education consists of three things: knowing, doing, and being. Knowing is something which we have emphasized in the past, but AI and many other changes in the technology are easily going to make that available to anyone at the fingertips at a moment's notice. So that's not where our competitive advantage is going to be. Go to the next, which is doing. Applying what you know or what you learn or what you get from Google. Yeah, we have a lot more role to play in that space. But the most important place where we can play a role is cultivating purpose and values, that is, being part of the education. Next, other than teaching, what do? We do research. So let me come to scholarship or research. The most critical question we should ask here is, why am I addressing this research issue? Publishing to meet institutional requirements is not good enough answer. It is necessary, but not sufficiently good enough. Far too often, I run into papers that fall into one of the two traps. Either applying a method in search of a problem, or hammer in search of a nail, or people conducting replicative studies that have little contextual relevance. For example, let's say there is a paper, hypothetical of course, carbon emissions in Costa Rica experience in the last 25 years. Now, such study might be very relevant in the context of Costa Rica. But if I want to get it published in a US journal, or if I want to bring it to the notice of academicians in India, it's imperative on my shoulders to demonstrate how is this relevant to the Indian context. How can it impact the accounting practice or the policy in that context? Thankfully, in India and all over the world, the publishing opportunities are increasing. The rise of India as the world's fifth largest economy, soon to be third, is increasing interest in the Indian-focused research. After editing a special issue on accounting in India for the Journal of International Accounting, Auditing, and Taxation, and recently having reviewed some drafts for the Indian Accounting Association's project on accounting education reform, I'm very confident in the research abilities and competence of our scholars. But it is important, indeed very crucial, that we articulate the relevance and implications of our work. The research does not have to be just the traditional or replicative research. Pedagogical research, which is what I love to do, should be heightened in importance and recognition. Ideas to enhance student learning, strategies for integrating emerging trends, instructional innovations can add immense value to the academic accounting profession. Perhaps the Indian Accounting Journal can even create a dedicated section for such contributions. Let me finally come to the third leg on which we all accounting educators work. The first one is classroom, second one is research or publications, finally, the professional service. I'm astounded by the dedication that I have seen today by the volunteers and the dignitaries that were honored of what they have tried to do for the organization. So the purpose should be to contribute to an organization's mission, not merely add a line on our resume. So to sum up, we live in exciting times. India's global prominence is rising, and technological tools are making it easier for us to innovate as educators. Let us leverage these opportunities to enhance the educational experience of our students. Recognize and learn from our colleagues who are exemplary educators. Share their ideas and innovations widely. It's like the story of two archaeologists, one from China, one from India, and both got into an argument as to how technologically developed we were many, many, many years ago. So both of them traveled to a research site in China, and they dig deep, and the Chinese archaeologist finds some wires and says, see, we had electricity long time ago. And the Indian archaeologist says, okay, you also can visit my country and we'll see. They again reach the site in India, dig deep down, and they find nothing there. So the Chinese archaeologist says, see, I told you that we were advanced. And the Indian archaeologist says, no, we didn't find anything here because we had wireless technology back then. So we have huge opportunities. So at the beginning of my talk, I said I will make an announcement. Before I do that, let me pay tribute to my first and most impactful and inspiring accounting teacher, my late father, R.R. Gujarati. He taught for more than 30 years at BYK College of Commerce in Nasik and has served or had served on many university committees, University of Pune. So the announcement is to honor the legacy of my father. My wife Varsha and I would like to pledge a donation of 8,44,500 444 rupees. Now you may ask me why 8,44,444 rupees. Recently, I was recognized with an award at my institution for lifelong teaching excellence, and the amount of the award was $10,000. At the current exchange rate, that translates into what I told you, 8,44,444. I would like to donate that to the organization. Now, I would like the money to be used, and I don't want to be very prescriptive. I will talk to the organizers if they so wish. But there are two awards that I would like to create in the name of my late father. The first one is Innovation in Accounting Education Award. It should be given to an individual or a group of individuals or an institution with the objective of encouraging innovation and improvement in accounting education, which can be replicated at other institutions. The awardees will share their work at a conference like this and make their resources widely available to fellow educators. The second award would be something like Outstanding Accounting Educator Award, not necessarily for the very senior members of the faculty who are about to retire, because we want these people to be inspiration to many others, many younger members of the faculty. So it should be given to an exemplary faculty member for sustained contributions for excellence in teaching, educational innovation, publications, research guidance and mentorship, and impactful professional service. As said, I would be happy to discuss with the officials how the modalities for this can be worked out. Now the real and final concluding thought, perhaps the most important one. Thank you for your patience and attention. Listening to a speaker after a good lunch is not easy. I can vouch for that. Academic accounting has been a deeply fulfilling career for me. I wish you all the same fulfillment and wish the organizers of the 46th All India Accounting Conference a grand success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mahendra Gujarati, for your wonderful presentation. Now, I would like to request Professor B. Ramesh. He is a former president of Indian Accounting Association and also former president of Indian Commerce Association, former dean faculty of commerce, Goa University, and now head Synergy School of Management, Hyderabad. He will give his comment so he will take around 5 to 6 minutes.
So thank you, the chairman, and my respected renowned speakers who sat with me and made a very elaborative presentation on important themes related to our accounting profession education. And then especially Professor Gujarati, who made the important announcements which would give some kind of boost once again to the Indian Accounting Association. So this is what exactly the platform that we get through the participation of such kind of professionals who would like to be associated for promotion of the accounting education. So thank you for your announcements, and then on behalf of the Accounting Association as past president, I would congratulate you. And now since the chairman has given me 5 minutes, so it is something like as a news reader, flash news of 20 news items in 5 minutes, so I need to make my presentation in that fashion. But then I would like to start with the theme of the innovation and creativity, which exactly Professor Gujarati has mentioned. Innovation and creativity in terms of accounting education and research. And now when we have been watching the corporate events that have happened over the last few decades, being accounting professionals, and we are only not able to show the guts to bring out what is going wrong with some of the corporates in India as well as abroad, and what is going right. And we always find what is going right. But then, unfortunately, we keep a blind eye in terms of what is going wrong with some of the corporates. Because being a professional, as an educator and researcher, and doing research in terms of doctorate work is not a simple research work. And this is the highest degree, and all your research findings are not in terms of what exactly the reflection at the beneath level of the corporate performance. I think somewhere we need to have the honesty to bring. It is, now if you look in terms of what's happening, that it is unless some research organization outside India comes out and say that this is something going wrong in India with this particular company, with this particular industry, then only we come to know. And that is a very unfortunate situation. And similarly, we are not able to dig into the foreign companies which are working outside, which are also practicing the similar kind of malpractices, and in terms of their accounting reporting, we are not able to dig into any kind of foreign companies, how they are also duping the investors, duping the government, and duping various stakeholders. This is where exactly we need to upgrade ourselves. For that, you need to have a guts. And because this is where we have been getting questions to research scholars during the viva of their PhD degrees, why this aspect is not touched. And the answer given by the researcher is that the government, whether the state government or central government, do not like such kind of revelations. And unfortunately, that's where exactly we compromise in terms of our ethics as a researcher. And this statement I heard many number of times during the viva examination. So which means that your revelations through your research degree are not up to the mark, but then the degrees are awarded. So now this is the difference that what we are seeing. Now, I remember that I made presentation about the Adani Group 2.5 years back. And when the whole stock market was stumbled, so that is now today called, it was Adani 1.0, now 2.0, which we have heard recently. So I'm not just referring to this isolated case of Adani Group. There are n number of companies which are doing this kind of thing. So ultimately what we are talking about accounting profession, what are the postulates of accounting profession? The transparency, and then value creation, and then your accountability to various stakeholders who are making investment in the corporate form of organization. So that's where we have to reach out, keeping all these three objectives in mind, irrespective of what may fall. And when it comes to accounting education, we need to be again honest. And as Professor Gujarati and the other speakers in the morning also have mentioned, accounting education, we need to bring in creativity and innovation. And people have said a lot of things in terms of development that have come. The technology, we need to leverage the technology in terms of our teaching. And now I would like to suggest, unfortunately what is happening is that the teachers, first of all, they are not prepared to adopt the technology and then equip themselves and make them to be ready to teach in terms of the new trends that are happening. So that was the first slag that pulls down the teachers not to dare enough to introduce such kind of developments in the curriculum. According to my approach, is that, and sometimes even the university curriculum is rigid where you cannot adopt. But my suggestion in that regard is that irrespective of your curriculum, whether it has some element of new technology, accounting subjects to be, for example, when you have the big data analysis, and you may not have the flexibility to adopt that in your curriculum, but then you can always have as a non-credit curriculum. And university or UGC will not prevent you to adopt as a non-credit curriculum of what you feel that is essential, that is to be taught in accounting education. So this is my sincere suggestion. In the morning you must have heard our General Secretary has said that one university has already adopted the model curriculum developed by IEA. So that is a great news. And we should now, many universities have to follow the clue from this kind of development. And now I would suggest if any university can also take a clue of adopting this kind of non-credit credits towards the innovative aspects like big data analysis or any other machine learning which is related to the accounting aspects or finance aspects. Yeah, so with this I would suggest, though I have not completed all my 25 news items in 5 minutes, but yet I have to respect the chairman's voice. So thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor B. Ramesh. Now, due to lack of time, now we are not inviting questions from the audience. Since both the speakers will be available in... Okay. So we invite only 2 questions, if any, from the audience to our respected speakers. Questions should be direct to the respected speakers, Professor Mahendra Gujarati or Professor Achinta Ray. If any, otherwise you can contact them later on also, because they will be available here today.
So time, so talking about the time.
Okay. Now I would like to request Professor Ashish Kumar Shah for a brief vote of thanks.
Extremely sorry that we are not giving any time to our audience for taking questions. So on the dais, respected chairperson and the learned speakers, and of the dais, my teachers, past presidents, and the executive committee members and delegates, and the other people, students also. So on behalf of the organizing committee of this 46th accounting conference, it's not an accounting conference today, it's a truly international conference because we have 2 international level speakers. Please give a big round of applause for them because we have 2 international accounting speakers from the 2 different universities, Professor Roy, Achinta Roy. Though we are not providing more time for elaborating his lecture, we are thankful to him for taking his session very nicely, especially for the debt crisis and how it originates and what are the problems for a country. We are really thankful by using the mathematical and statistical tools. He has shown his, the different aspects and impacts on the global debt crisis. Now coming to our legendary teacher of accounting, 50 years of his experience in accounting, he has shown how it important to students, teachers, and of course from the technology point of view. He has this kind of philosophical thoughts and process, how it transformation taken place in accounting thoughts. I convey my sincere thanks to both of them for their nice presentation in this August gathering of the 46th IAA conference. I must thank our respected past President Professor B. Ramesh for his nice observation of the 2 aspects, and of course our chairperson, sir, Professor Proshain sir, is the Vice Chancellor of the Tripura University. He has nicely conducted this session, and of course, without you, this conference cannot be held. So thanks for your patient hearing. Thank you. Thanks all for your nice patient hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Professor Sana. With this session ends here, we'll disperse for next session. Thank you.
Already ended, I don't take permission from the chair, but I have something to announce. The sessions for the seminar session, international 1, 2, and technical sessions I mean first and second. Second session on sustainable finance is bifurcated to 2A, 2B. So GST session is not today. Now GST session is also today. So there are 6 rooms. There are 6 rooms today engaged for concurrent paper presentation. GST in both days, Sustainable Finance 1 both days, Sustainable Finance 2 both days, Financial Shenanigans both days, Accounting Research International session both days. Only Accounting Education session has to be concluded today because its paper number is less than the others. So this was the first announcement, and this is immediately going to be started in the seminar room. All rooms are adjacent, so any delegate who is like to having the glimpse of other sessions, they can quickly move from one room to the other. There will be no shortage of time in doing that, no wastage of time. Another issue is that we have planned for the delegates a light and sound show in the famous Victoria Memorial Hall. The 6:30 show of that hall is exclusively booked for the delegates of Indian Accounting Association, because by 6:30 it will be evening, and in that time Victoria Memorial will look very, very beautiful. You will enjoy that. And apart from that, there are tickets. So tickets have already been purchased because the whole session, the whole slot is booked by us. So only the delegates will enter at that time, will sit in the chair, and will have the show of light and sound, since that is fixed from 6:30 to 7:30. It's a 45-minute show. So I would request all the delegates to leave this place in 2 slots. Since the session 1, International Seminar Session 1, will be not continued tomorrow, I would request the resource persons of that session and the paper presenters to remain present here till the time you are permitted to do, because by that time the first lot of viewers will be dropped there, and the buses will come here and will take you in the second lot. But be sure that the show will start only after all of you arrive there, but don't be late after 5:30 from here. So by 5:30 you should start from here, otherwise you will miss the show, because it will be a memorable show for all of you. And after finishing the Victoria Memorial show, therefrom we shall take you to St. Xavier's College, and you will enjoy, you will see its heritage building, the surrounding place, and in its playground, Father Dominic has arranged a very well-planned cultural evening, will be performed by outside artists, to be continued by dinner. Therefrom, you will reach your respective places of stay. So this is our plan. I think I could explain to you properly. If there is any doubt, you can ask other outside me or any other committee member. So thank you all. Please join the seminar rooms very much adjacent to this place. After going outside, you will go to left side. And in between that, you will have a tea break, tea and snacks that will be served there. You take as per your timing. There is no break. That will be continued. Thank you.